All right, welcome back to the Fit40 Podcast, where we simplify exercise and nutrition for busy parents 40 plus so they can improve their health and feel amazing. I'm your host, Brian Fitzsimmons, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach for people over 40 since 2015. And today, we have an awesome topic on deck. We're going to be talking about if you can drink alcohol and still burn body fat. Now, before we dive in, as always, if you aren't already, make sure that you are subscribed or you are following wherever you're watching or listening so that way you don't miss another episode, because we cover topics like this every single week, twice a week. So let's get into it. Can you lose belly fat and drink wine, beer, whatever your spirit of choice? Well, let's start with first what's required to burn belly fat. Okay, number one, I'm pretty sure if you paid attention to the evolving science around losing weight and you've been listening to some good people, you know a calorie deficit is what is required first and foremost. You will not lose weight. You will not burn body fat without a calorie deficit. Plain and simple. We know this is 100% fact. Now, there's a million and one different things that impact your calorie budget and what your body does. But at the end of the day, you need to eat less than you are. You need to consume less than you are burning. So that's first thing. As long as we can agree on that, everything else going forward will make sense. Now, next thing that is required, and honestly, this isn't 100% required. Like, you can really just ride a calorie deficit and do what you need to do to burn belly fat, but percentage wise and body composition wise, it's not going to end as well. Like, if you just, for example, like hop on a GLP-1 and do nothing else, you don't exercise, you don't sleep well, you don't drink all the right amount of water, all this stuff, you will lose fat, but it's not going to look the way you want it to look. So let's check off all of our boxes here. So first is sleep. Okay. When it comes to sleep, it's going to drive the hormonal balance in your body. That's going to make it easier or harder to put on or to burn body fat in the areas that we want. Okay. And also just stress overall, like your stress balance when it comes to things in your life, when it comes to how much exercise you're putting yourself through, when it comes to pretty much everything that is a stressor in your life in this big old bucket. Is that bucket overflowing or is it in a good place? And also strength and aerobic training. Are you doing both? Are you doing one? Well, when you strength train in particular, you hold on to less visceral fat. And visceral fat is that fat that's around your organs, the stuff that is in your belly. So when you have less visceral fat, your belly is noticeably smaller. Okay, next is it results in a higher percentage of fat loss versus muscle loss, because every single pound that you lose is a percentage of lean body mass and fat mass. Now, lean body mass is your muscle, your bone, your organs, stuff like that. And that will decrease to a degree. But when you strength train, when you maintain or even put on muscle mass while losing body fat, or while losing weight, then it increases the amount of percentage of fat per pound. So like, let's say you were 50-50 because you weren't exercising at all while on a GLP-1 or just while on a diet, and you lost about, say, 50% muscle, 50% fat, and you lost like 2 pounds. That would be a pound of fat. Okay, now let's say you increase your strength training and you're now maintaining or even putting on muscle. Now, there's no muscle mass that's being lost. Maybe you're losing a little bit of organ, I guess you could say, because that will happen. It just kind of naturally does. It's one of those things that happens in a calorie deficit for a prolonged period of time, but your bone and your muscle are not taking an impact, are not taking a hit. So we can assume like 90 something percent of that fat loss is going, or that weight loss is going to be fat mass being lost. So now instead of just losing a pound for every 2 pounds of weight, now you're losing about like almost 2 pounds of fat per 2 pounds of weight loss. So now overall, we're going to be losing more. So you're going to see it in the belly faster, which is honestly what most people want. Okay. And it creates a metabolic environment where post-meal nutrients are directed to muscles for repair and growth instead of being stored as fat. So when you exercise, your body's like, hey, this is priority number one. We got to recover. We got to be ready for that next time because we know it's coming. That's the stimulus that you give your body when you do heavier weights, when you do longer runs, when you do things that require it to pack on muscle or improve your lung and aerobic health. Okay, so that becomes priority number one. So we're not storing as much fat in general. And studies also consistently show that combining aerobic and strength training together is more effective for reducing both subcutaneous and visceral fat. So, subcutaneous is the fat that's under our skin, the one that makes us not look quite as defined. And the visceral is, like I just said, it's in that abdominal region surrounding our organs. So, doing both burns more of that compared to just one versus the other. So if you can, try to do a combo. And then let's talk about why alcohol makes this all harder. Okay. Like, let's say you are doing all the things, but alcohol's in the mix. Okay. What happens? Well, sleep. We just said sleep is super duper important because it is going to drive the hormonal balance of your body. And if you get crap sleep, your hormones are going to take a hit. Now, people normally drink alcohol at night to knock themselves out because they can't fall asleep. But even when that happens, yeah, you fall asleep, but your sleep quality takes a hit. So even if you are getting the hours, even though you're probably getting less than if you fell asleep like on your own accord rather than using alcohol as a way to do that, even when you get hours in, the sleep quality being poor leads to poor food choices. You're more impulsive the next day, and your cravings are 10 times worse because that part of your brain has been affected, and you are less able to regulate your stress and your mood. So, emotional eating, the chances of that goes way up. You are burning less calories because when you have less energy, when you are sleep deprived or quality sleep deprived, you don't move as much. You move slower. And I'm sure you notice this, like when you get a crap night of sleep, you just are kind of dragging at your desk. You're not tapping your foot. You're not talking with your hands as much. You're just not moving as much. And that's not burning as many calories. So now that calorie budget that calculator gave you is no longer accurate because you're not burning the amount of calories that it thinks you are. So now you have to eat even less calories to get the results that you want. And you're more likely to overconsume. So it's hurting you from both ends. And like I said, your hormones are going to take a hit, and you're more likely, you're setting up an environment hormonally that sets you up to accumulate more fat in the abdomen than you otherwise would without alcohol. Okay, because alcohol makes it more likely to be stored as visceral fat, like we keep mentioning. Okay, and when you are detoxing from booze, it stops fat burning because when alcohol is present, the liver prioritizes metabolizing it over other fuels like fat. Okay, this fat sparing effect means dietary and stored fats are not oxidized and are more likely to be stored, especially in the liver and abdomen regions. So it's going to be stored there in your belly. And on top of that, it's going to be affecting your liver. So now we have health problems on top of that. Okay. And just some general things that studies suggest are, number one, that alcohol consumption is consistently associated with greater abdominal fat because there have been numerous large scale studies that have found a positive link between alcohol intake, especially beer, and waist circumference and waist to hip ratio, independent of total body fat. So what does that mean? When you gain X amount of fat, not only are you gaining it, but when you include alcohol, a higher percentage is more likely to go to that region that we are trying to lose. So you're trying to fight an uphill battle. Alcohol alters hormonal regulation of fat storage. So alcohol can disrupt appetite and energy regulation by affecting hormones such as cortisol and insulin, and is associated with increased plasma testosterone in women, which may drive more fat toward the abdomen regions. And when we're talking about testosterone, this is also something that comes up like in menopause through peri and post-menopause. The testosterone levels or the ratio of testosterone to estrogen starts to raise up because now producing less estrogen and you're not quite as estrogen dominant as you were before, which is part of the reason that you now, instead of getting fat in the legs and the hips, it shifts more centrally towards the abdomen region. So if you're in that stage of life and drinking alcohol, it really does make this a lot harder. And also, drinking patterns matter. Frequent, moderate drinking is less harmful than binging. So high intensity drinking, like a bunch of drinks in just a couple of days, is more strongly associated with belly fat than small daily amounts. So like those people that have that one glass of wine with dinner are probably in a better place than those who are pounding, like having a session, pounding like 10, 15 drinks in one go. Now, that being said, if you have that one drink right before bed, then we're also at risk for what I just mentioned before. Even one drink is enough to wreck your sleep. So just know that that will happen too. And mitochondrial dysfunction from chronic alcohol use further reduces fat oxidation. So, chronic alcohol intake damages your liver mitochondria, which are essential for burning fat. So, now the things that we need to burn fat, we just don't have as many of. We just don't have the workers that are ready to put in that work. So, you're really, really making this harder. That being said, can you do it? Yes. It's just going to be a lot harder. And honestly, for the majority of people, when things are harder, it just doesn't get done. And that's just the way it is. We want things to be easy because we have a million and one things going on in our lives. We don't want to devote that much energy towards this. But if that's the case, you got to make it as easy as possible on yourself, and cutting alcohol or reducing it a lot can help you drastically. So, how frequent can we get away with? Like, what can we actually factor in so that way we can have the occasional drink, but we're going to get to our goals at the same time? Okay. The calorie budget really is the name of the game. What calories can you stick to and see the results that you want? Now, like we just talked about, that calorie amount that you think you're allowed to have and maybe has worked for you in the past without drinking as much is going to start to go down. So you got to account for that, because your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, that NEAT, the things that you do like tapping your foot, moving your hands, that's going to go down. So that burn is just not going to be there. So decrease your calories a little bit. But if you go so low, then that's where we start to see reductions in lean body mass, and you're going to lose more muscle than you otherwise would. So we really don't want to do that. And just in general, it sucks being on low calories. If you've ever been there, you know this blows. Like, the whole time you're hating it, you're counting the days until it's over, and you're less likely to reach your destination. All right. And also, it's worth asking yourself, is this a binge? Like, is this binge drinking? And for anybody who doesn't know what that is, because honestly, I personally didn't even know until I was educated on this. I think Danny Matranga brought it up at Real Coaches Summit like 2 years ago. And I was like, wow, that's kind of close to where I've been in my life with drinking frequency. And for men, it's 5 or more standard drinks on one occasion, usually within like 2 hours. And heavy drinking would be classified as over or 15 or more drinks per week. And then for women, it would be 4 or more drinks on one occasion within about 2 hours. And heavy drinking would be about 8 or more drinks per week. So if you find yourself in that situation, then maybe belly fat isn't the number one concern. Maybe it's, hey, just for overall health reasons, like maybe this is worth figuring out and diving into so that we can be around for longer, because there's a lot of good stuff that is down the road, like kids, grandkids, all that stuff. We want to be there for them, and we can't really do that if we're destroying our health in the process. So health first when it comes to that. Now, if we can keep it in moderation, like a drink or two per week is totally fine. I've seen clients see amazing results where they go out one time for date night each week or every other week, and they can still reach their goals. Or let's say you have like a streak of social events and you're like, man, I got a party here, 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 here. Cool. Like, just accept that that's a season of life, and we'll do our best to have like maybe a drink or two there, so we participate and we're social and all that good stuff. Not a big deal if you do that. And then at the end of that season, we get back on track, dial it up, and bring that alcohol consumption down while we bring our activity up and really hone in on our sleep and all this good stuff, so we get back into that flow. Okay. And if you are going to have a session, okay, that's how I prefer to do it, because I'm like, hey, I'm not going to just have one, and I don't really have a need to drink that much. But if there ever is a need, it's a celebration and I want to party. So like, I just tell myself, hey, we're going to have a session. You know what's going to happen tomorrow. We're going to want all the crappy foods. We're not going to want to move that much. We're going to want to hibernate. We're going to want to like eat the crappy stuff. And it's going to be very, very hard. So just know that that's coming. So either I account for that and put more calories towards that day, or I just buckle up and say, you know what, screw this. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to stick to my calories. I'm going to force myself to do some sort of activity, even if it's just a long walk. And I'm going to help my body detox by doing these things that are going to help it, along with like hydrating and eating good, like high nutrient dense foods. All right. And with that all being said, it's worth asking yourself, like, why is booze in the equation? Because like, if we're being honest, it's a carcinogen. Like, this is actively increasing our cancer risk, and it's in no way, shape, or form healthy for us. So why do we keep this in? Okay. I'm not judging. I'm just saying that they're like, if we're going by facts, that's just how it is. And I actively accept that every time I do have one of those sessions. So just know I'm not trying to be hypocrite over here, like drinking and saying this is bad for you. Like I accept those consequences, but like that's just a choice I've made. But it's worth looking into the reasons why we're drinking. Like number one, is it a ritual? I know after college, I got into a ritual of, or being in college and then coming out of college, it was hard to get out of that ritual of always going out to the bar Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or at least once or twice. And all three of those were like sessions. So after the years have gone on and I've actively been like, I got to bring this frequency down. I got to stop doing this, even though my friends are like telling me, come on, come on, come on. Like we got to reduce that in some way, shape, or form. And just having that in your head of like, hey, how can we bring this frequency down? Or how can I hang out with them and not feel the need to do that? Like, can I do other things with them? That can help a lot too. Because is it social? Like it really depends on the frequency. You can go out once in a while, have a drink with your friends. There's nothing wrong with that. But is this a drinking club? Like, are your friends only really drinking buddies because you always see them at the bar? So it's worth asking, like, hey, when you see your friends, like, do you want to do something that doesn't involve booze? Like, do you want to go to this game or do you want to check out this boardwalk or like something along those lines? I know these are bad examples, but like think to yourself, you and your friend group or maybe your family, are there things that you like to do that don't involve alcohol? And then you could hang out and not feel all the negative side effects that come with alcohol, like I just mentioned previously. Is it anxiety? I know this was me big time because I would not be able to talk to females without a little liquid courage. And I'll admit that. I was not good at talking to anybody without it because I didn't even realize I had anxiety. It took a few years to realize that that was the deal. So explore that and be like, is this what's driving it? Is it anxiety? Do I even want to drink, or is it the fact that I just want some relief from those voices in in my head saying like all these things that may not be true, or all these assumptions that I have going into the situation, and it's just driving me nuts. So maybe it's just focus on attacking the right thing, because if you can manage that anxiety and then all of a sudden drinking goes out the window, it's like, oh, okay, I didn't have to actively focus on not drinking. I just had to fix the anxiety. And is it a de-stressor? I know a lot of clients I talk to use alcohol as a way to de-stress. They also use things like exercising to de-stress. But then, for example, with the exercise, let's say they get an injury in their foot or their knee and they're an avid runner because running clears their head. What do? Kind of lose their shit, to be totally honest. So what do? We figure out ways to de-stress without that. So it can really, really help to figure out ways to de-stress yourself and bring yourself down in moments where you're really elevated and you're like, I'm going to lose it. Okay. It can help to have certain things that bring you back down that don't involve exercise, that don't involve food, that don't involve alcohol. Now, I just took away the big three, and I know that usually leaves a lot of people in this place of like, oh crap, like what's left? That's where the real work starts. That's where you got to really start brainstorming and say, hey, what can I do? I know for me, it's video games. Like I'm a dude from the early, like I grew up in the 90s, early 2000s, like video game heaven. So that's my thing. But I know a lot of clients enjoy reading, or some enjoy knitting or quilting and stuff like that, or doing Sudoku puzzles, or just telling their significant other or their partner or their husband or wife, sitting them down and saying, can we just talk, or like just hang out for a little bit, watch a movie? And that's more than enough for them to bring it down. So worth exploring on that. And along with everything I just said, I just want to end on this and say there's no right way to do this when it comes to alcohol, when it comes to reducing your belly fat. Like at the end of the day, we only get to do life once. I'm not telling you to pull out all the things that you absolutely love if you're willing to deal with those consequences. If you want to keep alcohol in the equation and it has a bigger priority right now in your life than reducing belly fat, for example, or hitting certain fitness goals, or just improving your overall health, I'm not saying this in a judgmental way. Like, hey, if that's you, go for it. I have friends and family members that are actively doing this right now, where they're like, hey, I just love drinking. I love being able to crack one at the end of the day, or be able to hang out at the bar with my friends. And I'd rather do that. And I accept the fact that, hey, probably taking years off my life, and I'm probably not going to live the best quality of life, but I enjoy doing this. And I'm like, hey, If you actively accept that, more power to you. Totally fine. But make the decision for yourself. It's not right or wrong in either direction. Just figure out what you want for your life and accept whatever comes with that. All right. So that's all I'll say on that. If you heard this and you're like, damn, I really do want to take control of this. Like, I want to implement these healthy habits. And maybe it's not just alcohol. Maybe, you got to eat some more veggies, protein, all that good stuff. Maybe start exercising. Okay. That's literally what I do for a living, is help people who are everyday people working jobs that are stressed out beyond belief, that are taking care of their parents and their kids and all these other things going on. And I teach you how to do it in a sustainable way, because it's real stuff that actually works, not just handing you numbers and saying, figure it out. So if you're interested and you want to hear more about that, just go down where it says coaching consultation, click on that link, set a time, and we'll talk. And if you're not there yet and you're like, listen, I don't need coaching and I'm good on that front, I just want to dip my feet in the water a little bit, totally cool. Give the tips that I just mentioned a try, but also grab those Toned in 20 workouts. Because if you're not working out already, those Toned in 21s are awesome. 20 minutes, just a quick circuit, hits all the muscles in your body, and you'll get a lot of benefit from it, because it's a circuit, it's also going to improve your aerobic performance. So like we talked about, you don't want just strength training or just aerobics. You want both. So best of both worlds, check those out. You won't regret it. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you next time. But until then, go kick some ass. Bye-bye.